Morning, everyone. This week we are discussing the government's winter plan. We're not talking about the shortage of gas, turkeys, CO2, petrol. Much more exciting than that, the government's autumn and winter plan, setting out how the government intends to address COVID, particularly with some employment implications thrown in there. Now, Plan A is the course that the government intends to take during the autumn period. This is a much more slimmed down set of measures that may impact the economy and businesses, but it does depend on factors such as the uptake in levels and effectiveness of the vaccination, how immunity decreases over time, how quickly and widely social contact returns to normal, and whether a new variant emerges. So at the moment, Plan A is to continue to encourage the unvaccinated to be jabbed, having rolled out the vaccine programme to 12 to 15-year-olds. A booster programme is just about underway as well. There is an expected usual increase in emergency demand and respiratory diseases. So the government have also outlined Plan B in England, which would only be used if the data suggests further measures are necessary to protect the NHS and prevent services becoming overwhelmed. So Plan B is a little bit more radical and restrictive in terms of measures. It is essentially to control the transmission of the virus while seeking to minimise economic and social impacts. A very difficult balance, as we've seen over the past 18 months. So the government will communicate clearly and urgently that the level of risk has increased, and with it the need to behave more cautiously. Mandatory vaccine-only COVID status certification may be introduced in certain settings. The government may legally mandate face coverings in certain settings, and we may return to being asked to working from home if employees can. In relation to the COVID certifications, this was due to be enforced in September, but it's been announced this will not yet be implemented and will form part of Plan B. If that certification comes in, it may be in very limited number of settings, such as nightclubs, indoor crowded settings with 500 or more attendees, outdoor crowded settings with 4,000 or more attendees, or any settings with 10,000 or more attendees. Some settings exempt, such as communal worship, wedding ceremonies, funerals and other events, and at least 1 week's notice is likely to be given before mandatory vaccination certification comes into force. Any measures that go beyond Plan B, the government has quite readily admitted it would have a much more harmful economic effect and will be much more socially restrictive. So at this stage, not even any comment about anything more extreme than that. So as an employer, what do you need to consider at this stage? Risk assessments may need to be updated to prevent the spread of the virus and minimise sickness levels over autumn and winter. We should remind employees of the test, trace and isolation system, requiring everyone with symptoms to take a test. Self-isolation for those who test positive and unvaccinated contacts remain in place, and there is practical and financial support for those who are eligible to continue. The government has committed to reviewing these requirements and support measures, but for some reason which is beyond me, this is by March 2022, which could be too late. The working safely guidance on how employers can reduce the risks will be kept up to date. At the moment, businesses must not ask or allow employees to come into work if they're required to self-isolate for obvious reasons. In addition, they are encouraged to ask employees to stay at home if feeling unwell, ensure an adequate supply of fresh air, providing hand sanitizer and cleaning products to clean surfaces regularly, displaying a QR code poster for customers to check in, and consider using the COVID pass, which certifies individuals based on vaccination. As I say, that working safely guidance may well be updated if the government has to move to Plan B, particularly if that work from home message gets stronger or mask wearing becomes more widespread. The government does recognise that working from home can cause more disruption and has greater immediate costs to the economy. Now, unfortunately, home working has played a very important role in preventing the spread of the virus, so it is one measure that I think is pretty easy to implement and require, particularly as it's already happened and any technological changes and adjustments have already been made. If there is a suggestion that people should move to working from home, we might consider more flexible arrangements. So rather than just moving everybody as we did en masse back in March 2020, there could be more of a hybrid arrangement where we reduce that footfall and try to reduce contact between staff. And again, that may be considered within the working safely guidance. So at the moment, I think it really depends on the stats. What happens with the numbers, what happens with admissions, is the NHS becoming overwhelmed? Looking at other respiratory diseases as well, is there a real risk that the hospital numbers are going to climb too high? If so, I think the government will look at implementing at least parts of Plan B for a certain amount of time. We will, of course, keep you updated as time progresses and these changes are made. If you need any advice in the meantime, please do visit the website for more resources, chadwicklawrence.co.uk, or email employmenthub@chadlaw.co.uk. Thank you.